Exterior of the building that houses the New York Stock Exchange. The market will open at 9:30. Lou Dobbs will take us to the floor of the exchange for the opening bell. You're looking at the NASDAQ market site. We will focus a lot on what might happen on Wall Street today. There is tremendous concern how Americans will react to the multiple attacks on our country, but a number of key investors are trying to make it clear to those out you that may not be all that optimistic that they plan to buy back lots of their own stock to show you the level of faith they have in the value of their companies. Workers in New York are just beginning to stream into this area. It is difficult to get here. You see this debris field now, some 22,000 tons of rubble already removed. The rescue effort painstaking. In some cases, workers are not only digging but using their own hands to deliver small particles of debris into buckets, and then that is in turn transferred to vehicles. The beautiful shot, of course, of the Statue of Liberty looking north towards the Manhattan skyline, a skyline that has been so severely altered by last Tuesday's attacks. Now, the difficulty for workers this morning is that there are a number of police checkpoints they must go through before they even get close to the perimeter of their offices. So it will not be easy for them. Many companies offering a paper face mask for their employees to wear to work today. Many workers defiantly coming to work today, waving flags in their hands, showing the resolve of the workforce here to show that America is on the mend and New York is rebuilding. Let me really quickly check in with some of the folks you're going to see throughout the morning. John King joins us again from near the Capitol in Washington. Good morning again, John. Also with us this morning, Miles O'Brien from Atlanta, who will bring us up to date on all the investigative leads that we are getting right now. And Bill Hemmer, of course, will be stationed outside the New York Stock Exchange all morning to give us a better idea of how workers are reacting to their inalterably changed city. Let's first start off with Miles, who's going to give us the latest on the investigation. Miles?
Good morning, Paula. Here are the latest developments in America's new war. A high-level Pakistani delegation is now in Afghanistan, telling Afghans they have 72 hours to hand over Osama bin Laden or face the wrath of the United States. U.S. stock markets reopened this morning, as Paula was telling you, after the longest pause in trading since the Great Depression. President Bush says it is time for Americans to go back to work. 2 new arrest warrants have been issued for so-called material witnesses in last Tuesday's terrorist attacks. 2 other witnesses already in custody. And 4,957 people are still missing in New York City, where the World Trade Center was destroyed by the suicide hijackers. 190 people are now confirmed dead. At the Pentagon, 186 people are missing in that hijack attack. 2 deaths have been confirmed there. Let's send it back to Paula in New York.
Okay, thanks so much, Miles. We had promised you an interview with Victor Lager earlier. We were having some problem with audio, but we've gotten that all to work. Victor Lager was one of the first uniformed police officers to arrive on the scene. He unfortunately has suffered a personal toll, as have most people in this country. He lost his partner that day. Victor, I really appreciate your being with us this morning. I understand why you do not want to be up here with me. I am told that it's just too painful for you to see any reminder of what you've been through. Again, thanks for allowing us to share your story with our audience. Can you describe to us where you were when you got the first call on Tuesday?
We were on 7th Avenue South and Grove Street, watching the first plane fly southbound.
And did you think anything was unusual at that time?
Oh, yes. Me and my partner thought that was very unusual to see such a large aircraft fly so low. And we just hoped they would pass all the buildings.
What did you see next?
We saw the plane fly directly southbound right into One World Trade Center, and we just couldn't believe what we saw.
So you saw the actual explosion then?
Yeah.
And at that point, did your instincts guide you straight downtown?
Straight down there. I was driving, my partner was revving me on, and we got there within a minute or so. Pulled up right in front of VC Street, in front of 7 World Trade Center.
And describe to us what you saw when you got there.
There was debris flying all over the place from the initial impact. There was people already fleeing the building. We went in through 7 World Trade Center. There was some glass doors. I remember going downstairs into a sub-basement mall, and there were people already fleeing from One World Trade Center. through the lobby into the mall. And as well as people coming up from the PAD train, we're hearing the screams and the smoke starting to fill up the mall, and we're also beginning to panic.
We're looking at some pictures now of the evacuation after the first tower collapsed. Even before that, there was a state of panic. Describe to us how people treated each other as they were trying to flee the building before it collapsed.
Everybody was in fear of their life. It was just complete chaos. We tried to keep some order. We tried to keep people calm. It didn't seem to help. The more the smoke filled into the mall, the more the smoke filled into World Trade Center, the more panicky people got, and it was even harder to control them. People were getting trampled. People were getting severely hurt. People were having heart attacks and complaining of chest pains. People just didn't even move out of fear.
Is it true that people actually, in this state of panic, knocked over folks in wheelchairs?
Yes. I don't think anybody at this stage was truly in control of their emotional state. I think at that point they triggered a survival instinct, and their only main concern was to get out.
You and your partner had worked together for about 10 years. At what point in this process did you become separated?
Immediately when we went into the mall, in the sub-basement that connects the two towers, there were people injured already. And I was in there with two Port Authority police and a transit cop, and we were picking people up. Immediately, I would say a minute after that, or 2 minutes after that, 4 firefighters ran in. And one of the firefighters had about 4 or 5 tanks on his back, and my partner immediately, it was his instinct to grab these tanks and help this fireman with him. And he turned over to me and he said to me, you know, Vic, you stay with these people here, you have a lot of help. I'm going to help these guys, they need some more help. I'm going to go upstairs and see if we can save some people, and I'm going to run down here and meet you. And of course, I totally disagreed, and I stated, you know, I didn't want him to go in there. I said he had no fire protection. He had no mask to breathe. The smoke was unbelievably thick coming out of One World Trade, and I was really concerned. And he had no fear, and he told me he'd be all right, and that FD was assuring him that the building was stable. At that point, we just thought it was an accident, and he seemed pretty confident, and he made me feel pretty confident that everything was going to be okay.
At what point did you realize you had lost James? And we're going to put up a picture of James and the 3 sons he has left behind.
After the second plane hit my building and I was in the lobby, we didn't really initially know what happened. We feared for our lives at that point. Pieces of the interior of the building were coming down. People were already being killed. Within minutes, we realized the building wasn't collapsing, Tower 2. We ran out, and I proceeded across the intersection, and we just couldn't believe what we were seeing. The civilians who were watching started screaming to us it was another plane, and I knew it wasn't an accident at this point. My partner was raising me on the radio somewhere near the 28th floor with 20 people that they had rescued from offices, and he was with some firefighters. And I explained to him, I said, this is no accident. This is another plane that hit the second tower. And I explained to him, I said, Jimmy, you have to get out there. Get out of that building as fast as you can. And very calmly, he said to me, don't worry. We're going to be all right. The buildings are stable. FD's telling me it's stable. We got 20 people here. He said, Vic, just meet me downstairs. I'll be down there. And within minutes, I felt the ground start to shake from Tower 2. At that point, we knew this building was coming down, and you just started running for your life. You started running, basically, from West Street. You ran to the ferry because you can hear the horn of the ferry, and that was your guide. Because when the debris started coming down and the smoke started filling the air, you really basically couldn't see. And this whole time, my partner was still alive. It wasn't until I would say 25 minutes later, or I couldn't even give you a time because there was no more time, there was no essence of time, that I heard my partner start calling my name again after the first building came down. And he started asking me, what's going on? What's that noise? And I started screaming on the radio, you have to get out of there, you have to run as fast as you can. Jimmy, the building just came down, you have to get out of there. And at that point, you can hear him in his voice, a little sense of panic, but more of that he was running in the stairwell. And you can hear the people in the background. And not much longer after that, after he was calling my name continuously, and the building came down, and I couldn't hear him anymore. And I remember trying to call him, even an hour or two later, still trying to raise him on the air, thinking that he might have made it out, and I didn't hear anything.
And Victor, so many police officers and firefighters lost their lives that way, going into the buildings when everybody else was coming out.
When that building,
trained to do that.
When that building came down, anybody who was in a few feet from that building was sucked in. And it was just devastating. Anybody who was going in, anybody who was inside, anybody who was just standing around a few feet was just totally wiped out.
Well, Victor, we really appreciate your sharing your story with us this morning. We are so sorry about what happened, and wish you a lot of luck as you try to rebuild your own life. Thank you very much for dropping by. Let's head back down now to where business is getting underway on Wall Street. We find Lou Dobbs once again on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, along with its chairman, Dick Grasso. Hi again, Lou.
Hi, Paula, and as you say, I'm here with Dick Grasso, the chairman of the New York Exchange, some 6 days after the devastation of the terrorist attack here in New York. You're up. A lot of people were skeptical, Dick, about whether or not you would be able to pull this off. Your opening now scheduled just about 19 minutes. You're absolutely confident.
We are totally confident, Lou, that at 9:30 that bell will ring. America will be back to business, and America's greatest capital market will be the lead in doing that. We'll send an important message to the criminals they've lost.
When Mr. Grasso says the world's largest, it is the world's largest by several factors, some $13 trillion in market capital here. As I walk around, and Dick, it's been a few months since I've been down here, I'm amazed at the number of people who have American flags sewn on their Docker jackets, the number of flags posted on the booths, the spirit. I'm used to these gentlemen slapping each other on the back occasionally and shaking hands, but they're giving each other real hugs and sincere hugs.
Lou, this is a true epicenter of patriotism. Our president came last week to really send a message to all Americans, and certainly to those New Yorkers, those who were lost at the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania, that you can destroy and take innocent lives, but you cannot destroy the American way of life. And these people will rally this morning as comrades in arms, as one America, just as our politicians have come together, put aside their differences. This is a time of, I think, special opportunity for all Americans.
Dick, I'm just curious, at this point, we're seeing a number of indications of strength in the overseas markets. We have seen actually turn positive both in London and in Frankfurt. What are your early indications here for what kind of market we're going to see on the New York Exchange?
Well, Lou, I think everyone realizes and remembers that in times past, when America has been challenged, be it from an economic standpoint or from a political standpoint, this nation has unified, has come together, and we will do that again. This economy is the leader of the 21st century global economy, so there may be some short-term dislocations because of this heinous crime, but in the long term, Lou, betting on America has always been a great bet.
And you have made certain in your expressions here publicly that the New York Stock Exchange is not talking about stopping selling, but rather making certain that people are able to exercise their investment decisions, sell or buy. You just want a free and efficient market, right?
This is free market capitalism, Lou, at its finest. And again, if you look back to those who react emotionally in times past when this country has been challenged, they've been wrong. You have to be, as an American, very proud of what our president has done, very proud of the leadership in the Federal Reserve, in the Treasury, in the SEC, and all in the financial sector who have come together, put aside petty jealousies, and said, we're going to send a message to these criminals. They cannot destroy the American way of life. They can't destroy this economy, and this great market will lead us to higher and more productive levels in the future.
And as Dick Grasso understood almost sooner than anyone else, this is the epicenter of a global financial market. And Dick, I know you're going to be pleased to know that as of the most indications about 10 seconds ago, London, Frankfurt, and Paris all moving higher. So we wish you all the best with the Open here coming up in just a few moments. Dick Grasso, who's done a remarkable job to reopen and to restore the New York Stock Exchange, and will be opening here in just about 15 minutes. Now back to you, Paula.
All right, thanks so much, Lou, and we'll come back to you live when the markets open. The head of the New York Stock Exchange once again saying that these terrorists cannot destroy the American way of life and the American economy, although acknowledging that there will be, in his words, some slight dislocation in the days to come. Let's go back to Bill Hemmer, who's standing by outside the New York Stock Exchange, watching the wave of people descending on this part of the city, many of them waving American flags this morning. Hi, Bill.
Indeed. Paula, good morning once again. We're seeing American flags and ribbons and lapel pins. We're also seeing a number of paper masks here being worn by countless people who walk past us here. That cloud of smoke and steam has shifted east, it appears, because we're seeing it drift over us for about the past hour and 15 minutes. And again, that smoke is quite heavy at times. A number of people, Paula, thus far do not want to talk. They say they are too torn emotionally at this point, but still others do want to share their emotions and what they're feeling as they come back to Wall Street. Let's talk with a few more traders this morning. Will and Jonathan are here from Lehman Brothers. Gentlemen, good morning. First time back?
Yes, today is the first time back.
How do you feel?
A little anxious, a little nervous. You know, there's a touch of fear in the air.
You feel the same, Jonathan?
Absolutely. It's still a hostile environment out here. As I exited the train this morning, smelt the air, but our hopes are up, and we're excited to be back to work. That's the mood on the floor itself. People are excited to be back, anxious. It's going to be a crazy couple of days, perhaps weeks, even months, but we're ready.
A couple of people were remarking to me that they were happy to be back, in the sense that they're seeing people who are friends and colleagues that they have not seen since last Tuesday morning.
That's absolutely correct. People are happy to see other people, and they also, the news is that some people have lost friends down on the floor that they've known for 30 years. And it's, you know, on one hand, it's a very sad situation. On the other hand, you're very happy to see your colleagues and your friends.
Gentlemen, thank you. Good luck today. Jonathan and Will, Lehman Brothers. Quickly, want to take you over here to the Island ECN Electronic Communications Network. Pardon my back here. This is after-hours trading in order for trades to be executed electronically outside of the normal hours of operation between 9:30 a.m. and 4 o'clock East Coast time. Andrew Goldman runs the shop here at Island. There is trading going on underway about, 19 minutes ago. What are you seeing?
Well, so far it looks pretty encouraging, Bill. You know, the Island Marketplace opened at 8 a.m., goes through to 8 p.m. We account for about 1 out of 6 trades on NASDAQ, and so far we're seeing a pretty orderly market. We're looking at inside in the screens there where we can take a look at all the buy and sell pressure for the stocks trading on Island. We see on the top 5 list, I think Cisco, Dell, Microsoft trading in a fairly orderly fashion. Looks encouraging. A couple of defense stocks have popped up early on, which shouldn't be too surprising given conditions.
Mm-hmm. Good luck today, okay, Andrew?
Thank you,
really appreciate that. Again, it gives us an idea and a direction, but clearly we will see when the market opens in the New York Stock Exchange which way we're headed in about an hour and 10 minutes. Andrew, thank you. Once again, Paula, quickly here, security is tight. It's been tight throughout the morning. We will watch it. More reaction coming up shortly from down here on Wall Street. Paula, back to you.
All right, Bill, thanks so much. We're going to take you to ground zero once again this morning to show you how rescue efforts are proceeding. The mayor of the city still calling this a rescue operation until all hope is distinguished. There are thousands and thousands of rescue workers either working 12 hours on, 12 hours off. I actually met a firefighter yesterday that's been working 24-hour shifts, 24 hours on, 24 hours off. The big challenge of this now is that even though 22,000 tons of debris has been removed, there is a lot more to get done. And even below this, there is reason to believe in these towers that there are 7 floors that exist underneath. And a investigator I spoke with yesterday seems hopeful that perhaps the structure underneath is not destroyed. But this is what the effort looks at this hour. The mayor of the city now saying that over 4,900 people are missing. 190 confirmed dead, 115 of those identified. The city still asking any of you who might have missing loved ones to come down to the Armory, to bring along pictures, bring along any personal items that may help them do a DNA match, whether it's a toothbrush, a hairbrush, a cigarette butt. Any of that could be very effective in helping them make a match. Let's go back to John King in Washington. John, just about, 10 minutes or so, we showed a picture of the president appeared to be heading towards the White House with his advisor, Karen Hughes. Do you have any idea what the president will be up to today and whether we might hear from him?
We do indeed, Paula. That picture of the president walking with Karen Hughes was actually coming back to the White House from the old Executive Office building as you prepare for the opening of the markets there in New York, the president here in Washington, through his actions, through his words, even through his body language, trying to convey a sense of optimism about the economy, also trying to calm the fears of those at work here in Washington who are sitting down at their desks in government buildings wondering if perhaps their office might be a potential target for a future terrorist attack. So we saw the president this morning walking from the White House first over to the old Executive Office building. Those two buildings are just across. The president flashing a thumbs up, waving there to reporters, trying to take pictures of him. You see Karen Hughes and Condoleezza Rice, the National Security Advisor, with the president, pausing here to say hello. Many of the White House workers who are deemed, quote, non-essential were told after the terrorist attacks last week not to come to work until the government had a better handle on the security environment, had a better handle on the investigation underway. All back to work here in Washington, just as they are back to work on Wall Street today. So the president walking across the street, if you will, to the office where most of the White House staff works. Some work in the White House itself. Then the president inside the old Executive Office building, coming down a set of stairs. Here you'll see him taking some time. He's the commander-in-chief, but around the White House, he's also the boss. He's the CEO.
The best way to fight terrorism is to not let terrorism intimidate America. A lot of people who work in this building were deeply worried about their lives last week. There are a lot of courageous people here, and they're coming back to work, and I'm going to thank them for that and remind them we've all got a job to do. People digging out the rubble in New York have got a job to do. Those of us in government have a job to do. Thank you.
See the president here just shaking the hands, and here a picture of the president walking back across the street to the White House. You see on the bottom screen there we have some breaking news. The Fed cutting interest rates 1/2 point. Now as the markets open on Wall Street, the president will be sitting down for a, quote, principals meeting. That is his senior national security advisors.
No, he
were
just
told by
mentioned
a
it. Kathy, he just
senior administration official a moment ago that the president will be mulling his military and other options at that meeting. Now let's go back to Paula Zahn in New York for more of this breaking news development. The Federal Reserve deciding to cut interest rates by 1/2 point. Paula?
Thanks, John. I have an expert who can help us better understand what that means. Andy Serwer from Fortune magazine. Does that just show the level of concern the Fed has right now about the state of this economy?
I think you're hit the nail on the head, Paula. I think it's a good thing. I was just talking to a very wired-in trader just 5 minutes ago who anticipated a rate cut, but he thought it would happen later, after trading began, because that way the Fed would see how bad things would be if the market actually did take a big hit. I think what you're seeing is the Fed is concerned on the front end, wanting to preempt any sort of market drop. This really helps Wall Street, and I think it really shows them that the Fed is ready to make a concerted effort to keep the economy going, to keep stocks up.
We are all getting lost in the math in this story, but is this in fact the 8th time interest rates have been dropped this year?
Yes, that's right.
Who will this rate drop benefit most?
Well, immediately it's going to help Wall Street because it's going to give people on Wall Street confidence that the Fed is there for them to help the economy, to make money cheap for banks and for consumers, to help them go in and borrow money and to keep the economy going. But it's going to be pervasive. It's going to help everyone across the board.
I don't know whether you were able to hear Chairman Grasso's interview with Lou Dobbs, but I thought he used some interesting words. He said this economy is the leader of the 21st century global economy, but then he acknowledged that there will be some, in his words, slight dislocation What's he talking about?
A slight dislocation is a euphemism for stocks dropping, let's face it.
Okay, that was a real nice way of saying that, wasn't it?
You're absolutely right. Again, it's interesting the Fed did this before the open. You know, the good news, they did it to preempt a drop, and the bad news is maybe they were concerned stocks were really going to drop. This trader I was talking to thought that stocks might drop 600, 700, 800 points. At that point, the market would pause and the traders would look for a rate cut. Now they've got their rate cut. It'll be interesting to see. It sort of throws a lot of strategies off because people had anticipated this big drop, then the rate cut, but instead they got the rate cut first. So just more swirl to the story.
Okay, so take us through the swirl. So now that the strategy has changed,
well,
then what?
Well, then what is the big question? I think what you're going to see is a smaller drop. You're going to see people sitting on the sidelines right now. We've seen stocks in pre-market trading down 5%, 6%, big stocks like Microsoft, Cisco, and Intel. I think they may kind of trend back up, so the drop at the open may not be so bad. Again, it's hard to tell where things will go later in the day. Very, very hard. But I think this will stop the market from taking a big hit at the open.
All the big financial gurus who are out there saying, don't panic, don't sell. It is significant that Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway is now saying that there might even be some real good buys today. He's not going to sell. Right. He may even be buying.
Yeah.
What should that mean to anybody out there?
Well, I think that you have to be really careful about going in and buying at this point. You really want to just watch the action, particularly in the AM here. I think that it's really, really important for investors just to sit back and watch. I think the market is going to bounce around like crazy right now, and it's probably a really good idea just to sit there and watch the big boys play.
But sit there with your seatbelts on.
Absolutely.
Andy Serwer, thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
For your insights. We're going to take a short break here, but before we head into the break, I wanted to let you know Dr. Henry Kissinger will be a guest at the top of the next hour, or sometime within the next half hour. In addition to that, I am going to take you to Ground Zero, to a part of the area that reporters have not been allowed into. I wasn't allowed to video anything, but I was able to get a couple print shots off, and I'll share those with you. That and a whole lot more right after this short break.
Among the highest number of graduates in computer science and engineering in the country. Over 4,700 graduates in computer and information sciences. Over 5,000 graduates in engineering, including chemical and bioengineering. And they all graduated from the same place. Just who produces this kind of talent for the workforce each and every year?
Pennsylvania.
To keep your business moving in the right direction, you need to make the best decisions about your image. Fast Signs offers sign and graphic solutions to make your choices simple. With locations coast to coast, Fast Signs is ready to keep your business moving. Fast Signs, sign and graphic solutions made simple. Call, click, or visit a Fast Signs location near you.
I worked hard to be a better doctor. I worked hard to be a better businesswoman. I worked hard to build a better practice. How can I make sure my money works hard so I can spend more time just being a better person?
At Lincoln Financial Group, we offer clear, understandable financial planning to help you protect and enjoy the work of a lifetime. Lincoln Financial Group, clear solutions in a complex world.
I remember 20 years ago how they turned the racing world upside down. First by introducing a race car with quattro all-wheel drive, and second by having a woman driving.
The search for life and loved ones continues as President Bush promises victory against terrorism. For complete coverage, stay with CNN.
A typical car insurance agent is on the job during regular business hours. On the other hand, Geico insurance professionals are on the job 24 hours a day. Geico, a 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Oh, I didn't want mail.
You don't have to sacrifice service to save money. Geico, a 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If I look happy, it's because I've got a super night's sleep in my Craftmatic Monaco adjustable bed. I'm also delighted because of the free TV I received. You can get a free 25-inch color TV with the purchase of any Monaco adjustable bed, too. Just call toll-free to receive this free TV certificate by mail. Call to have your free 25-inch color TV certificate and complete details about Monaco mailed to you right away.
Call 1-800-514-8181.
What is a hero? Are heroes born, or are they made? In after-school programs, your kids will uncover hidden strengths, discover they have the power to change their future, and find the hero inside themselves. Let us know you on after-school programs in your area. Call 1-800-USA-LEARN. After-school programs, helping kids find the hero within.
This is CNN.
.30 on the East Coast, precisely 1 hour away from one of the most anticipated market openings in recent memory. The New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, other exchanges opening for the first time since the Tuesday attack on New York City and on Washington. In advance of that opening, the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by a half a point. So the first bit of news in advance of the market opening is a good piece of news. Let's recap and bring you up to date. A Pakistani delegation has delivered a U.S. demand to the Taliban government in Afghanistan: turn over Osama bin Laden or face U.S. military action. Wall Street bracing for an initial sell-off when the U.S. financial markets open today. They'll be open for the first time since the attacks. The markets conducted tests over the weekend to make sure they'd operate smoothly. A top Uzbek diplomat says his nation is open to talking with the U.S. about the use of its airspace and bases for an attack on Afghanistan. Uzbekistan borders Afghanistan on the north. New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani says there are 190 confirmed deaths and nearly 5,000 people missing in New York now. Giuliani says some bodies may never be found. President Bush is expected to meet with his national security team today. He will also be meeting with his economic advisors as they all monitor the opening of the stock markets. That brings you up to date. Let's send it back to Paula in New York.
Thanks so much, Miles. And I'm joined now by Dr. Henry Kissinger, the man that so many of us turn to try to unscramble some of the confusion that we are inundated with at the moment. Welcome. Good to have you with us this morning. Let's start off with the latest development. We know that Pakistan's top spy and a former ambassador to Afghanistan have gone to the Taliban and issued a demand: give us Osama bin Laden in the next 3 days or face military action. What's going to happen as a result of that demand, or ultimatum, as some folks call it?
Well, I think it's an ultimatum, and if they refuse, there'll certainly be military action. But I believe we have to go after the Taliban anyway. They've been supporting these terrorist activities all over the area and all over the world, and it isn't enough for them to give up one man. They have to dismantle the structure of terrorism.
Do you have any confidence that someone can accomplish that? I think Madeleine Albright in the last hour said it's like cutting the head of a snake off and having all these other little parts you trail behind.
Well, in part that is correct, but these groups require a base, they require money, they require organization, and if we can get them on the run, and if they have to spend all their energy surviving, they can't plan these meticulously prepared attacks that we saw in New York and in Washington. And it isn't only Afghanistan. There are countries like Syria that have bases, Sudan, some are probably even in Algeria. And we have to put governments on notice that if they extend safe havens to terrorists, they will run the risks that terrorists do.
So wait a minute. Are you telling me this morning that the United States and its allies might find themselves in the position of attacking Syria and perhaps Iraq?
No, I don't think we have to attack Syria, because I think Syria will close down these camps if they're brought under enough pressure. Iraq, I would be open-minded on if they are tied to any of these terrorist networks, they should be attacked.
Let's explore further the impact of Pakistan now offering its support to the United States in exchange for retiring $30 billion worth of debt and some other things it's once taken care of by the United States. There are folks like the Northern Alliance, the opposition front to the Taliban, that says don't trust Pakistan. Do you trust Pakistan?
I don't know. I would judge countries by their performance now, not by their words. The American objective has to be to break up these terrorist organizations. I'm not saying that all has to be done with military force. For example, there could be a ban on travel of any country that has, of citizens of any country that has safe haven for terrorists, added to economic pressures. But in the end, these terrorist groups must have training bases. They prepare these things at great leisure, and it is dangerous for all of us, suicidal, to let them get organized, hit us, then take one retaliatory blow and come back 2 or 3 years later with another disruptive and murderous attack.
So while the Bush administration is exploring military options, it is working around the clock to build a number of different kinds of coalition. Where do you think Russia is in all this?
Well, Russia is in a very curious position, and I hope some of the reports that I have read are true, because no country has been... I was in Russia in July, and I talked to many of their leading people, and their theme was of the danger of fundamentalists and terrorists. Of course, they were thinking in part of Chechnya. Now they seem to be holding back a little bit vis-a-vis Afghanistan, because they must have some pleasure in watching the Americans get involved,
watching them suffer the same fate, yeah.
In Afghanistan. But at the end of the day, all these countries have to understand that they are targets even before we are. We're just a symbol. When they went after us, it was a symbol to everybody else that if even America can be attacked, what chance do you people have? And that's why we need a broad coalition, but we cannot be made dependent on whether everybody agrees.
Secretary of State Colin Powell mentioned that an executive order that was put into place in 1973 on President Ford's watch that forbids assassination, 76, excuse me, yeah, you would know that, you were there, is under review. If that is lifted, and if the U.S. and its allies can specifically target Osama bin Laden, who the president says is the prime suspect, how will that change the efforts in the months to come?
Not much. We're not good at this. I mean, if this assassination order was interpreted that we couldn't bomb a building in which Osama is located, then it will free us for that sort of attack. But hiring assassins that go after individuals is not something Americans are very good at. I support whatever Secretary Powell proposed, and altogether I'm impressed by the decisiveness of the administration. So I don't think that will be the key element. The key element will be, one, whether we can generate a concept. Secondly, whether we will keep going. If after our initial, hopefully success, because this is going to be a long effort, as the president has said.
Well, you said that, and yesterday we heard a number of cabinet secretaries repeat that message. What is it that the American public should be prepared for? I heard someone say yesterday, a 10-year war.
Well, it could be a prolonged war, but its intensity will diminish. And after a while, it will be a mopping up operation. And but if we don't do it, what we have to remember is if we don't do it, we will remain permanently vulnerable. People who rely on us, and others even who don't rely on us, are going to be under an even greater threat than we are, and it means that the world will be dominated by terrorists, and we can't tolerate this.
One last question for you. Do you think U.S. intelligence knows where Osama bin Laden is today, as we speak?
Well, they probably don't know the street number, but they have...
Or the cave number.
Or the cave number, but they probably have a general idea of the region where he's located. And we ought to give some credit to our intelligence services, because they've been under tremendous pressure from our domestic institutions, and they've been cut back and harassed, and they've had a tough job.
So you're not willing to say U.S. intelligence has failed America?
No. I think U.S. intelligence has been, if you look at one investigation after another, and they have done as good a job as they could under the circumstances.
Dr. Henry Kissinger, good of you to join us during such a turbulent time of our nation's history. Thank you very much for your perspective. We're going to take a short break now, and on the other side of that break, we're going to check in with Bill Hemmer, Lou Dobbs, John King. They're going to take some of your email questions. Just a quick reminder, gin up those questions at attack@cnn.com, and we will try to answer as many of them as we can get to. We'll be back after this very short break. Stay with us.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%. With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
Among the highest number of graduates in computer science and engineering in the country, over 4,700 graduates in computer and information sciences, over 5,000 graduates in engineering, including chemical and bioengineering, and they all graduated from the same place. Just who produces this kind of talent for the workforce each and every year?
Pennsylvania.
After another day of mourning, those left standing continue their search for life and loved ones. And the stage is set for a borderless war, as President Bush promises victory against terrorism. For complete coverage, stay with CNN.
Welcome back. This is what Lower Manhattan looks like today, as some 75,000 workers returned to their jobs this morning in and around the financial district, many of them waving American flags, some of them wearing masks. You see some rescue workers there wearing some masks, but in addition to that, companies are handing out those paper masks so folks can be protected from the heavy dust that continues to permeate the area. And believe me, I was down there yesterday, the very strong, acrid smells. We're going to bring you up to date on the rescue effort a little bit later on this morning. Joining us to help us in all of our efforts throughout the morning, John King from near the Capitol this morning, Bill Hemmer, who joins us from outside the New York Stock Exchange, Miles O'Brien, who continues to stand by at the investigation desk in Atlanta, and also joining us in this roundtable discussion to answer some of the questions you have lobbed our way is Lou Dobbs, who joins us now from the floor of the Stock Exchange. Lou, I wanted to start it off with you, because we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the Feds announced they are going to drop interest rates. It's cutting the closely watched federal funds rate to 3% from 3.5%, which is the 8th rate cut this year. The reaction down there to this news?
As you say, the 8th rate cut, the third intermeeting cut or surprise cut, and the discount rate, importantly, at 2.5%. The Fed funds rate, as you said, at 3%, the lowest it's been in 9 years. But frankly, the reaction here has been one of caution and, if you will, temperate expectation. Some of these folks talking about they'd rather have seen a more dramatic 1%. But it's almost impossible to tell its impact. But it was not met by cheering or any sort of resounding reaction here. These people are going about serious business, ready to open this market in just about 45 minutes, and it just didn't have any kind of emotional or dramatic impact.
It's interesting you should say that, because Andrew Serwer was on a little bit later on saying what it will do, though, is cause strategies on the floor to change pretty dramatically today. What sort of changes might be made?
Well, Andy is, I'm sure is absolutely right, but I think most of the strategies that are put in place here will not be dependent on monetary policy, and certainly short-term rates being moved this dramatically. It's symbolic, it's helpful in the long term. But today, what the exchange is focused on, the Treasury, the Fed, all of the major brokerages, is an orderly market. And the most encouraging thing, Paula, is that we have seen the European markets move from negative territory early in the trading today there into positive territory now. That is a strong vote of confidence for what is going to happen here on Wall Street. Now, there's no question. These specialists and traders, it's an emotional day for them as well. Because remember, the World Trade Center is only 3 blocks from here. These people are a part of the same community. They had friends, colleagues, and importantly, people who they cared about as professionals in the same community. This is going to be a tough, emotional day for these people, but they are getting a lot of encouraging signs for what will be a very tough day of work on the floor of the New York Exchange and at the NASDAQ.
All right, Lou, we're going to come back to you to even in advance of the 9:30 opening for further reaction to this rate cut. Of course, we'll be covering the opening live, as well as part of the 2 minutes of silence that will follow after you hear the opening bells. Let's bring John King and Bill Hemmer back into the discussion. It's time to answer some questions from our viewers. We're going to start off with a question from Tracy, who has no last name this morning, but she has a good question. The question is, isn't it customary for hijackers to be proud of their achievements and gloat or even boast about their involvement? If so, do you have any idea why the culprits of this recent Twin Tower bombing are not owning up? Who wants to start first here? John?
Well, I can give you a sense. We do know from law enforcement and intelligence sources that one of the reasons there has been what the government calls, anyway, significant progress in the investigation so far is that there were some phone conversations intercepted in which members of these terrorist cells are alleged to have been bragging about the attacks to their colleagues. Now, as to why there was not a public statement, yes, in the past there have been some groups who rushed to claim responsibility after terrorist attacks. One of the fears of U.S. officials, though, is that this was a first wave, that these terrorist cells continue to exist in the United States, and that there perhaps were plans for additional hijackings and additional possible attacks. If that is the case, that would be one reason for these terrorists not to come out and publicly claim responsibility.
All right, our second question comes from Frank Steiner of Greenbrook, New Jersey. His question is, if we declare war on Afghanistan, can we freeze their assets worldwide and take them as reparations, making the country unstable and unable to survive without the aid of another country? Lou, do you want to weigh in on this one?
Paula, the answer to that is fairly straightforward. With the international authorization, that is the United Nations and the World Court, that could be done. It could not be done unilaterally by the United States, except in specific cases with bilateral arrangements. But the fact is, Afghanistan does not have enough assets to even think about reparations for the damage that has been done in these terrible, devastating attacks on the world's financial center here in New York and, of course, at the Pentagon.
And I just wanted to button that off with, Lou, the fact that Pakistan, of course, is one of 3 governments, only 3, that recognizes the Taliban as the rulers of Afghanistan. And one little note I have here says that, in fact, it's the primary financial backer. Let's move on to our next question from Rawi B. from Guam. The question is, the U.S. has taken the position of declaration of war to terrorism. Does President Bush need the permission of the United Nations? Bill?
Paula, I think that question is probably more properly addressed in Washington, but with regard to the UN, I think at any point that anyone wants to take military action, it is always best, as we have seen through the White House in the past 2 days, trying to establish this international coalition. We saw it during the Gulf War, and we were quite clear at that time that after the former President Bush gathered his coalition together, the U.S. militarily and politically felt like they were in a much stronger position. But I think John King probably has a much better gauge on this at the White House, huh, John?
Well, yeah, John, what will be the extent of the involvement of the UN here, and what kind of permission does the U.S. need?
Well, the Security Council did pass a resolution condemning these attacks. The administration was gratified with that, but this administration would say that it does not need the permission and will not wait for the permission of the United Nations. And two examples would be, number one, the Persian Gulf War, where President Bush was criticized by some for using violence, if you will, in the words of some at the United Nations, to go after the government of Iraqi President Saddam Hussein. There has been a continuing debate in the 10 years since over the continuing use of U.S. and British warplanes to patrol those no-fly zones. And there was criticism as well in much more recent history when President Clinton organized the NATO allies and others to go into Kosovo with military action. Many in the United Nations criticized that as well. So this administration would welcome any international statements of support. It will not listen to any international statements of either caution or condemnation.
John, I got another question for you from our next viewer, Jane Baljaldziev from Skopje, or Skopje, as those folks who live there call it. Does this mean that the U.S. will wage a war on all terrorist organizations, or just those responsible for Tuesday's attacks?
Well, that is the question of the day, if you will. One of the reasons administration officials are talking about perhaps some military strikes in the next days or weeks, but more importantly, trying to prepare the people of the United States and allied and other governments around the world for a campaign the Vice President said yesterday would take years. Others in the administration have talked of at least a decade. There's a two-pronged strategy here. One, to try to hold those responsible for these attacks accountable, and then the President saying he will root out terrorism around the world. Now, the question will be down the line, whether it's 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now, will there continue to be support from the people in the United States, the American people, for that, especially if it involves U.S. military assets? And what will the reaction be around the world? Will this administration and possibly a follow-up administration be able to maintain an international coalition to fight terrorism? That is a big question, especially in the Middle East and that part of the world where many of these terrorist cells, in the view of the United States government, are initiated. It has been a very difficult, delicate balance. Secretary of State Albright, former Secretary Albright, was speaking about that earlier today. Very difficult to sustain the diplomatic support against organizations known to be quite violent.
John, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring the rest of your colleagues, but most of these questions really pertain to your area of expertise, including the next one from Jorge Nogueira from Lisbon, Portugal. His question is, I would like to know if there are any chances of nuclear arms being used in this conflict. Would it be possible also to avoid this terrorist attack? John?
Well, as a journalist, the administration and previous administrations have certainly raised the concerns of nuclear materials making their way out of the former Soviet Union, for example. No evidence at all that any of these organizations have a working nuclear weapon, and as a human being, God, let's hope not. But certainly that has been one of the concerns of the administration's argument for a missile defense system, that in time perhaps a rogue nation or a rogue group could get a handle on a nuclear weapon. But we have heard no such talks. There have been concerns raised about chemical and biological weapons, which are, of course, much easier to transport across international lines and across borders and the like. That has been a much more of a paramount concern, chemical, biological weapons, than any nuclear aspect of this.
Bill, just a quick question from me, just to reset the scene there as more and more workers start to converge on this area outside of the New York Stock Exchange building.
Yeah, Paula, you know, one thing that strikes me just standing here watching the workers file away, we just saw about a dozen National Guard troops walk past us here. There's an armored personnel carrier stopped at the intersection down here. And I think, you know, as we look at this almost a week into this terrible tragedy that we're seeing, I think for a lot of people, it's still settling in. And the fact that we're standing here on Broad Street, right near the stock exchange, waiting for the open to come down here, and seeing these troops and police, etc., and the security detail, it really makes you stop and think and really try to settle in the reality that we're witnessing so far at this point into this terrible tragedy.
And I'm going to go back to Lou Dobbs now as we move up on just about 35 minutes before the New York Stock Exchange opens this morning. Lou, I know you talked a little bit about the concern over systems that are in place. We know that a lot of buildings, even around the perimeter area where you stand right now, don't even have electricity. Con Edison laying 20,000 tons, or excuse me, 20,000 miles of lines yesterday to try to restore electricity. But Lou, are you still with? Yeah, there you are. But you touched on this a little bit earlier on with Mr. Grasso, the sense of personal loss down there, because many of the folks who were on the floor today lost friends and family members, didn't they?
Absolutely, and as you know, Paula, this is a very tight-knit community here on the floor of the New York Exchange. These men, mostly men, some women, grabbing each other and just giving each other very emotional hugs, wishing each other well on what they know is a historic day. And it's a day that many of these people would just as soon be home grieving for those that have been lost in the financial community, whether they be family members, friends, or simply professional colleagues who simply won't be going back to work after last Tuesday's devastating attack. It's a remarkable display of emotion as these people get ready to open the world's largest equities market in just about 36 minutes from now. And it will be quite a remarkable sight given all that has had to be accomplished in order to get these markets back up and running. Back to you, Paula.
Yeah, Lou, so how many red, white, and blue ribbons are you seeing pinned to lapels? How many flags are people holding?
Well, they're all over the exchange. The posts have flags affixed to them. I've seen a number of guys, big, burly, tough guys, holding back tears, sticking their flags in the posts, wearing them on the shoulders of their brokerage jackets. There is an amazing display of both the emotion and the loss and the pain that has been suffered here, and a great deal of pride in what this country is about to set out to do.
All right, Lou, we'll be with you when the markets open in just about 32 minutes from now. We have talked a lot this morning about the amazing display of patriotism in this country. I wanted to show you or share with you a story from an American Airlines pilot. His name is Rich Williams. He flies out of Dulles Airport, and he is said to show confidence in the aviation system. He will fly around the country with an American flag flying from the cockpit window. Wanted to just quickly share a couple observations with you from my trip down to Ground Zero yesterday. I got into an area that no journalist has had access to so far. I wasn't allowed to video anything, but what I saw there as well was that I can't say every, but all of the major vehicles that are doing digging and hauling out of debris from the area also had flags attached to their antennas. I saw a lot of homemade kids' pictures of flags that are actually taped to the grills of trucks, and a little bit later on this morning I'm going to show you some of those pictures. We're going to take a short break here. Our coverage will continue on the other side.
If you are seeking someone you believe to be missing from the attack on the World Trade Center or the Pentagon, log on to cnn.com/missing to submit a photograph and description. Please include your contact information.
Bringing you the latest reports as events unfold in America's new war. Stay with CNN.
I'm Lori Farkas for Dish Network FYI. Do you have a certain group of regular television channels that you always watch? Then you should set up a favorites list. To begin, press your menu button and select Favorites option. You can create and change the list yourself, adding and removing channels as you wish. When you make your list active, your program guide displays only the channels in that list. There are many ways to customize favorites to suit your needs.
Choosing the right Medicare supplement plan is so important, but it can be confusing. I needed answers to several questions, and I found them in this Guide to Health Insurance for People with Medicare. It's available absolutely free, just by calling this toll-free number. I learned how Medicare supplement policies give you the freedom to choose the doctors and hospitals you want, that almost all your Part B process claims can be filed automatically, and how once the policy is issued, your coverage can never be canceled. This free guide could help answer your questions about Medicare supplement insurance. I know it helped me make the right choice. Call for your free Medicare supplement guide today. You'll be glad you did. Call now.
This informative guide to health insurance for people with Medicare is available absolutely free from United American Insurance Company. To receive your free guide, call 1-800-457-4102. That's 1-800-457-4102.
If I look happy, it's because I've got a super night's sleep in my Craftmatic Monaco adjustable bed. I'm also delighted because of the free TV I received. You can get a free 25-inch color TV with the purchase of any Monaco adjustable bed, too. Just call toll-free to receive this free TV certificate by mail. Call to have your free 25-inch color TV certificate and complete details about Monaco mailed to you right away.
Call 1-800-514-8181.
This
is CNN.
Good morning. Welcome back. A new dawn, a new beginning for Wall Street. In 30 minutes, the New York Stock Exchange opens. 75,000 New Yorkers trying to get to their jobs this morning. It is not an easy task. In many cases, they've got